Hello, this is AstrologerCoach Sonja Francis, and today we're going to be talking about the upcoming full moon, which will be in almost 19 degrees of Sagittarius on June 9th at 9:10 a.m. Eastern Time, which is also New York time in the US, or 6:10 a.m. Pacific Time, which is also the West Coast time in the US, or LA time. Now, as you can hear, I have a little bit of a cold. So please forgive my voice and my nasally expression today, but I wanted to make sure that you guys can hear about the upcoming full moon, and I already pushed back the video a couple of days to feel a little bit better. So today I'm feeling a little bit better. So let's talk about the full moon. Now, one thing to remember with any full moon is that, of course, it's a more extroverted and more emotional time. We're dealing with opposites. With this particular full moon, the Neptune in Pisces and Jupiter in Libra play a very crucial role in the full moon chart because they're both slowing down. Both planets are moving more slowly, which is called stationing. And both are therefore more exalted. The energies of both of those planets are more exalted. And so this really is an invitation for us to connect to our inner wisdom and to our heart connections with others, with ourselves, and kind of like allowing ourselves to be open and heartfelt, right? But more about the specifics in a moment. We will also go into Neptune and Jupiter stationing in more detail in our next forecasting forum, and I will talk about that as well at the end of the video. Now, I also have a special offer that I want to share with you guys, so stay tuned until the end so you can hear about that as well. Now let's dive straight into the full moon. For the next 2 weeks, we seek balance as we're more aware of something that needs to be brought back into alignment. The balance in question is between our mental processes, symbolized by Gemini, and our quest for larger truth and larger meaning that we want to give to things, which is connected to Sagittarius. Now, it's important to realize that the Sagittarian urge to go beyond the essential, or to go beyond what we already know, go beyond the information, right, that we have, because Gemini has to do with the information. Sagittarius wants to go beyond the information. And that is really important for our growth and our evolution. In order for us to grow and expand, we need to do that. We need to go beyond what we know. And so in terms of balancing these energies between Gemini and Sagittarius, that means that we also need to look at how we interact and share information, which is the Gemini part of things. Now, Sagittarius shows us a wider perspective, one that has us look beyond facts and learned knowledge, and to our direct life experiences and the wisdom that we gain from these direct experiences. So as we get older, we get wiser, right? And Sagittarius sort of like shows us that by living, by experiencing, we gain wisdom, right? Now, Gemini wants us to stay connected to our immediate environment and our day-to-day mind. And so that's more about processing and sharing information as fast and as much as possible. So Gemini is a busybody, so to speak, right? Now, of course, all of this will resonate more with you if you have personal planets or angles within 2 degrees of this full moon. And I'll circle back to that later in more detail as well. But you may want to watch my video called How to Read Your Birth Chart to see if that applies to you. Now, if you haven't seen it yet, you can either watch it on YouTube or you can email us at info@astrologercoach.com and just write recording in the subject line. Both of that is possible. Now, Mercury, which is the ruler of Gemini, is currently in its own sign. And so therefore, it feels very comfortable there. So it feels exalted there in that sign. So social interactions are very important to us with that placement. And we're also invited to remain curious and focus on listening as well as sharing. So it's very important. Gemini has that duality to it, right? It's that the two twins. So it's not about just speaking. It's also about taking in and listening. Now, Jupiter, which is the ruler of Sagittarius, is currently in Libra, the planet will come to a halt within the hour of the full moon and starts to move direct again. So that's why it's stationing right now, because it's slowing down, it's coming to a halt, and it's going to start to go direct again, because it's been retrograde for the past 4 months. Now, as Jupiter is slowly starting to pick up speed again after it's come to a halt, it will return our focus to the outside world in regards to everything that we've learned the past 4 months in regards to that planet's energy, right? And this process will be completed by June 17th. So by June 17th, Jupiter will be at its regular speed again. And what you can do up until then is ask yourself, since early February, what have I discovered about my ability to learn and grow in terms of balance, peace, justice, and relationships? And what's my inner understanding of my one-on-one relationships at this point? And what do I believe to be true about them? What do I believe to be true about my one-on-one relationships? And this question is really awesome. If my inner balance had its own voice and could speak, what might it say to me? I think that's a really fantastic question. So kind of what we've learned around inner balance, right? Or finding our own inner balance the last 4 months. And then the last question is, how can I apply my new understanding to the outside world once Jupiter has gone direct, right? Now, with all these questions, you don't have to answer them right away. You know, use them for meditation, use them for journaling, use them to just marinate in the questions and allow the questions to be there in the background as you go through your next 2 weeks. And as always, with all the questions from this video, they're also available on my website at astrologercoach.com via my weekly forecasts page, which is, there's a link on my website that gets you to that page. After June 4th, I will post that on June 4th in the evening. And you can also sign up to receive them via email if you prefer that. You can email us at info@astrologercoach.com and just write weekly forecasts in the subject line. And then my assistant will add you to the mailing list. All right, sounds good? Now back to the full moon chart. Neptune in Pisces is a very important planet in this full moon chart. It's also stationing at this time right now, just like Jupiter, but it's preparing to go retrograde. So it's doing the opposite of what Jupiter is doing. Jupiter is going direct after it's been retrograde. Neptune is now starting its retrograde phase, which will start on June 16th. And it squares the full moon of our, full moon in Sagittarius. So what does all that mean? This definitely heightens our focus towards our intuition and our ideals. And we will also go over all these station phases in more detail in our next forecasting forum. So if you want to know how Jupiter going direct and Neptune station and go retrograde will impact you personally, feel free to join us. We will be applying what's coming up to our own birth charts. So we'll talk about that in relationship to our own birth charts. And the next forum will be on Saturday, June 10th at 11 a.m. Pacific time, 2 p.m. Eastern time, which is also New York time, and 7 p.m. London time. So for more info and to register for that, feel free to go to my website at astrologercoach.com and also look out for my special offer there as well. Now back to the Neptune squaring the full moon. So this Neptune squaring the full moon is a stretch aspect, which means we're invited to grow and stretch. And it asks us to connect to ourselves from within, even though there's so much that pulls us into other directions with this full moon, right? So like Gemini and Sagittarius are both extroverted social signs, right? And Neptune in Pisces asks us to create and maintain daily routines that promote our connection to our higher self. So as you can see, there's this extroverted pull with the full moon, but the Neptune in Pisces is more of a going within and tapping into our divinity, right? So for the next 2 weeks, ask yourself, what might I hear if I consciously listened to my intuition? And what if I experimented with communicating to others from a place of compassion and empathy? So really bringing compassion, empathy into our day-to-day interactions and into our exploration for life, right? Whether that's concerning ourselves or other people. Now, the last question is, what if there were a way to go within and share myself at the same time? So again, you don't have to answer these questions. Just sit with them, journal, meditate, whatever works for you, right? Now, intuition, of course, speaks loudest when we're still and quiet, because intuition is very subtle, right? So how can we listen to our intuition? How can we get in touch with that a little bit more fully on a daily basis? We can start to meditate. We can take walks in nature and just, really let things, soak things up, let it in, let everything in that we're feeling, that we're sensing, right? We can journal. We can be creative. We can go with the flow. And all of that facilitates connecting with our higher self, with our intuitive self. And so as best as you can, with this Neptune placement being so strong there, trust that you're guided always, that there's always a piece of yourself. And this is really inside of you, that there's a inner compass inside of yourself that always guides you, that's always available to you. And all you have to do is just get in touch with it and listen to it, right? But remember, it's subtle, so we have to kind of slow down, get quiet, be able to really listen to that. And it's not listening to this up here, it's listening to the heart space more, right? So for example, if something resonates with you, right? If you're sensing or feeling a resonation with something, an energetic resonance, it's in alignment with your energy. It's in alignment with your higher self. So go for it. Do more of that. If something doesn't resonate with you, if something feels kind of like, it doesn't just quite feel right, there's something a little bit uneasy or uncomfortable there, then it's probably not in alignment with your higher self. So in that case, you either need to, maybe there's a lesson there, you need to learn something there, or it's just not for you, right? So we just have to kind of tune in and see, okay, what resonates most with me, and then just allow ourselves to take the path of least resistance, right? So as best as you can, trust that that's available to you, that you have that connection with yourself, with your higher self. Listen to your body, right? Because our physical body gives us a lot of information as well. Listen to you in the guidance, which is connected to also the feeling body. And then ask yourself, what drains me? And what energizes me? And just having the answers to those questions will tell you exactly what direction to steer, right? Where you can get in more alignment with yourself, with your higher self, right? Now, Neptune invites us to tap into our divine intelligence through our heart space, right? So that means that there's information, resources inside of that go far beyond our day-to-day mind. So it reminds us that we're all connected in the big cosmic ocean of things. We're all a drop of this big water, and it's the whole universe. The whole universe is just particles and energy that is all intertwined and connected with each other, right? So there's constant support. That energy that connects us with everything, there's constant support in that, right? Now ask yourself, what if everything was perfect all the time? And what I mean by that is not that you wish it to be perfect, right? Not that you think to yourself, oh, I wish it was perfect, or I wish it was like this, right? But what if it actually were always perfect? So no matter what circumstance you find yourself in, no matter what experience you have, what if it was all perfect? What if it was all part of what it needs to be experienced, part of what is part of your soul's exploration of life and your own evolutionary process, right? So what if everything was perfect all the time, right? And from a heart space, right? It's like thinking of that from a heart-centered space, not from the mind in terms of trying to analyze it, but from a heart space. And what if I simply decided that I'm exactly where I need to be? And again, this type of stuff, it's like you can obviously always say to yourself, like, oh, I want to be here and I want to do this and I want to have this and I want to accomplish this and I want to, experience this and that. But if we decided just in the here and now, just for one moment, that we're exactly where we need to be, I mean, what a relief and what a release that would be, right? Like just physically, emotionally, mentally, just allowing yourself to decide that just for a moment, right? And just go, I'm good, right? So just allow yourself again to marinate with these questions. And the last question is, what if there is no such thing as a wrong decision? I think this is really a fantastic question too, right? Because so often we ask ourselves, what if I needed to do this or that, and the mind, that duality of the mind can be so fickle and can be so, bring up so much doubt, right? Because we see both sides of the equation, or we hear all these different voices in our minds. But what if there was no wrong decision? Because from a heart space, right, everything that happens is perfect. And then if I'm exactly where I need to be, so then how can there be a wrong decision ever made, right? Because every decision that we make will ultimately lead us to the next path, to the next evolution. So it can't be wrong, right? So again, what if there was no such thing as a wrong decision, right? Now, the last thing I want to talk about with this full moon chart is Saturn. Saturn is very close to the moon in Sagittarius. And so we're being prompted to really take responsibility for our belief and thought structures at this time. So one thing you can ask yourself here is, where have I become attached to being right? I think that's a really powerful question, because so often we don't even notice it when we're being attached to being right about something. Some kind of belief or some kind of thought structure that we've been holding on to for a really long time, or that's been with us since childhood, So where have we become attached to being right? And where do I tend to make assumptions in my life or with other people, right? And then where do I have rigid expectations? That's a really good one too. With Saturn, sometimes we can get a little bit rigid, especially if we get fearful about something. So where do I have rigid expectations about things in life? And what might be possible if I listened 5% more intently than I normally would to my own thoughts? And, especially the reoccurring ones, the ones that keep coming up over and over again, that you've heard yourself think many, many times, like this is how it is, and it's always like this, and it's never like that, and blah, 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 blah. Those are the kind of thoughts we're talking about here. So, just listen 5% more intently to your own thoughts. And just see what comes up for you when you hear yourself think these thoughts, or to other people's words, right? What might be possible if I listen 5% more intently to other people's words, right? How other people speak to me, what other people are actually saying to me, right? Now pretend for a moment that every thought matters, right? Which I personally believe it does. But, I don't want to assume that you do too. But pretend for a moment that every thought matters and creates your reality, right? Now, what if I walked my talk? So as we're thinking our thoughts and as we're having these processes going on in our head, what if I actually aligned myself fully with that talk that's in my head? Especially, when we have that talk about other people, what they should be doing or how they should be living or how they should be thinking. Is that something that we own? Is that something that we're doing too? Or is it something that we're maybe projecting out because we're, there's some part of us that's not quite in alignment with that ourselves, right? So just check in with that. You don't have to judge yourself or punish yourself. Just check in. Just kind of like be the observer of that, right? And then the last question, where am I still learning to embody my own deepest truth? The things that you really hold dear, these deepest truths inside of you that this is true for sure. And, usually truths are really things that never change, When something changes, it's not really a truth. It's just a thought or a belief that we have. But when something is truly true, then it is always true all the time. It just doesn't change. So to sum it all up for this full moon, it's time to move forward and harness our potential for growth, expansion, and evolution with that Jupiter forward movement, right? And keep in mind that our sense of balance needs to come from within with that Neptune placement, right? And as best as you can, stay rooted in your inner knowing that all is well and that you and you alone determine what is true for you. And it doesn't matter what's true for other people. It only matters what's true for you, and to really live by that in your inner compass, right? To be in alignment with your inner compass and to honor it, right? So here are some final coaching questions. What do I believe to be true? What do I currently connect to with my inner and outer dialogue, right? How do I understand life? How do I apply myself to life? How does my focus towards the outer world influence how I feel? And I think this is a very important question here too, right? Because very often we look at the outside world and we interact with the outside world as if it has no impact on us, For example, like when we watch TV, we watch the news, we watch a TV program, we watch a movie, and there is a strong emotional impact that these things have on us, right? But very often we're not tuned into that. So really tune into how does your focus towards the outer world influence how you feel. And it's not just with TV, it's also the places that you visit, that you go to, the people that you connect with, how does that influence how you feel, right? And what might be possible if I paid 5% more attention to my inner compass, right? And I think that's a really fantastic question too. What might be possible, right? So if you have an ascendant, a career point, or personal planets in 17 to 21 degrees of Sagittarius, Gemini, Virgo, or Pisces, then this full moon is certainly going to be more impactful for you. The natal houses in your birth chart affected by this full moon are just as important as well to take a look at. So look to see where is 19 degrees of Sagittarius and Gemini in your birth chart, and what do those houses or those areas represent in your life. Now, can you create a balance or integrate those two areas for the next 2 weeks, or connect to your wisdom and your thought processes a little bit differently there, right? And if you'd like to dig into this a little bit more fully, once again, I recommend watching my video, How to Read Your Birth Chart. And if you don't have a birth chart, a printout of your birth chart yet, then definitely watch that video, because at the end of that video, I will talk about how you can get a printout of your birth chart for free online. And it's also a great video to watch before you join my monthly forecasting forum. So feel free to either watch it on YouTube or email us at info@astrologercoach.com and just write recording in the subject line, and then my assistant will send you that recording with some handouts. And if you've been thinking about joining my monthly forecasting forums and you haven't done it yet, I definitely want to encourage you to watch that video first. And I also am going to talk briefly about what the monthly forecasting forum is for those of you who don't know it yet. And if you do, then please stay tuned for the special offer that I'm offering in a couple of minutes. Now, briefly, these forums are really supportive. This is why I created them. I wanted to create something that helps people to tune in every month with me and to apply it really to their own chart so that it becomes more personalized. Because obviously in a video like this, I cannot really do that for you guys, but in a forum where it's more interactive, I can. And so it's really the next best thing besides getting a one-on-one reading with me, and it's much more cost effective for you. Basically, the format is that we will use our own birth charts actively, and you can ask questions, and I will answer as many questions as I possibly can in the 90 minutes that we're together during the webinar. And we will talk about the upcoming energies each month, how they impact us personally, by looking where these energy patterns land in our birth charts. All right. So since we have a Jupiter station right now and a Neptune retrograde in Pisces coming up, I want to encourage you to join us so you can see how these planetary movements are going to impact you personally. And the next forum is already on Saturday, June 10th at 11 a.m. Pacific time, 2 p.m. Eastern time, which is New York time, and 7 p.m. London time. All right, so you can sign up to join the webinar live, or you can register to receive an MP4 video recording within 24 hours of the live event. So since you can ask questions in advance via my online forum that I have on my monthly forecasting forum page, this is very valuable too, to just watch the recordings. So don't feel like you have to join us live if the dates and times don't work for you. You can still get the maximum value by watching the recording. And I will answer as many questions as I can within the 90 minutes that we have together. Of course, I might not be able to get to everybody because the forum is growing and there's more and more people joining us. And of course, as more people are joining, it's difficult to answer every single person's question, right? Now, the fee of the webinar is only $24 for the 90 minutes. And the special offer that I have for this month only is if you sign up for the next 2 forecasting forums, which would be June and July, you will receive a free class on the moon nodes, which is our soul's journey, from my Beyond the Basics soul-based astrology curriculum that I teach online. So it's like a 90-minute class. I think it's a little bit more than 90 minutes actually. It's approximately a 90-minute class where we talk about the moon nodes in our own birth charts and how to interpret them, how to look at them in the birth chart, and what they're all about, basically, right? So if you want to know about your own soul's journey in your own birth chart, that's a great class to watch, and it's part of my Beyond the Basics class that I teach in my curriculum that I offer, right? Now, you can register for all of this by going to my website at AstrologerCoach.com. Just click on the link there on that webpage that gets you to the monthly forecasting forum page. And please also fill out the registration form that's at the very bottom of that forum page, as well as making your payment so that I know if you're joining live or not, and also that way you can also answer, fill out a question that you might have in advance. Now, please, when you ask questions, make them related to what we cover in the webinar. So since we're going to be talking about Jupiter and Neptune mostly in the webinar, make the questions about those 2 energies, or what's going on in your own chart in relationship to those 2 planetary movements. It will be much more valuable for everyone involved if we can keep it to those questions. Now, you can also join me for daily forecasts on my Facebook fan page or on my Twitter page. Feel free to tune in with me that way as well on a daily basis. And again, all the questions from this video are also available on my website at AstrologerCoach.com via my weekly forecasts. I will post that in the evening of June 4th. So after June 4th, that's available. And you can also sign up for them to receive them via email if you email us at info@astrologercoach.com and just write weekly forecasts in the subject line. All right. Now, if you don't want to receive emails from me once a week, then you can also sign up for my newsletter, which I send out approximately twice a month. The newsletter includes special offers, videos, announcements about my business, about my courses, about retreats that I'm doing. So any of that will be in the newsletter. All right. So if you want the newsletter, just email us at info@astrologercoach.com and just write newsletter in the subject line. All right? So that's it for this full moon. If you have any general questions regarding the full moon, I'm always happy to answer those. Just email me at sonja@astrologercoach.com. That's sonja@astrologercoach.com. If it's a personal question that requires of me to pull up your birth chart, I will ask you to either book a reading on my website, which is at astrologercoach.com, or if the question is related to anything that's coming up within the next 30 days, then definitely ask your question during my monthly forecasting forum. All right, and go to that page on my website. All right, guys, I hope this was helpful. Remember, the full moon is an extroverted time, a time where we're wanting to embrace polar opposite energies. But of course, with that Neptune energy, we also need to go within and incorporate that as well. So we're definitely being pulled in a lot of different directions for these next 2 weeks. So have a good one. This is Astrologer Coach Sonja Francis. Goodbye.